everybody. Welcome back to another edition of The Teardown. My name is Jeff Gluck. I'm with Jordan Bianchi. We are here at Darlington Raceway, and we're together, Jordan, for the first time since the Daytona 500. The Athletic finally has the same race again. They decided to not keep us apart any longer. So here we are. It looks like we're in a prison cell if you're watching on the YouTube live stream, but we have our own room here. So we're going to talk about all things Darlington. And
I missed you.
Did you really?
I did.
Okay. Well, the feeling's not mutual. In fact,
it's hurtful.
Last night.
Oh God, this is already going to start.
I mean, I had to do dinner by myself both nights of this weekend. So if you missed me so much, we haven't been together since Daytona. Did we do dinner? Did you bother to make time for me? Your friend?
I invited you out to dinner with the crew.
You said if you wait an hour.
Yeah, we went out to dinner at 8.
And then drive an hour back to your hotel.
It's not my fault you picked a crummy location and you're basically, far away from everyone else. The rest of us are in civilization.
Okay.
You were invited to go out to dinner. You chose not to go to dinner. I'm sorry you're by yourself.
All right. Well, listen, this is not what people want to hear about. What they want to hear about is our take on the Darlington race that just happened. I thought for a while, Jordan, that we were going to be talking about what?
Yeah, I want to talk about. Can I ask you this? Did you want to see a perfect race? I did.
If Byron was going to win the race, like if he was going to win the race and lead, say, I don't know, 200, whatever, all but the pit cycle, then you might as well have it be a perfect race. I wanted to see the NASCAR version of perfect game.
Yeah.
I don't care who does it or when it happens. I've always been jealous of like the baseball writers who say, man, I saw a perfect game or whatever. Right. Because we don't really get that. The NASCAR version of that to me is somebody either laps the entire field, which I've never seen, or somebody leads every lap, which you see that in other shorter races, like a sprint car race or whatever, right? But to see it in a cup race when that hasn't happened since 2000, Jeff Burton. So I was like, okay, whoa, this could be, hey, this is something here. I mean, my thought was if we're going to see a dominant win, you might as well see it in historic fashion, right? That's where I was coming from. But once that didn't happen, you're like, whoa, hold on here. Because although Byron led the first
243
laps. That's something. By the way, before we and look, because we're going to go past Byron now, right? Because we're going to get to what else happened in the race. I mean, Byron and that team, unbelievable effort. Like, I know track position was huge today, and if somebody else had gotten out front, whatever, right? But it's still Darlington, number one, right? Like, you could still easily make mistakes. You're still running close to the wall. The pit crew had to keep him out front. Yeah, he had to start on the pole, so he had to give a great qualifying effort to get him there. We haven't seen anybody start a race and lead 243 laps since that race in 2000 that Jeff Burton won with the restrictor plates in New Hampshire. So to me, it was like, dang, this is pretty freaking crazy. This is awesome. I mean, good for them. Like that, you have to hand it to them. They came absolutely with a great car. They just didn't have the strategy to win it.
No, they didn't. I want to see it just because I don't think it's never even come close to happening. It's not like baseball where you see no hitters and you come close to no hitters happen on the regular, a few handful of times a year. You don't see it over here. And it's like, if this was it was the perfect circumstances. And when you've seen races like this or driver teams, dominate to this extent, a lot of times it's on short tracks. Denny Hamlin talked about, at Richmond one year, Jeff Burton came at New Hampshire, which is an unusual set of circumstances, but still a smaller track. It just doesn't happen too often on this. Martin Truex Jr., I guess 392 laps at Charlotte. So it would have been cool to see if you're going to have a race where it's just like, oh my God, there's nothing, didn't feel like much was happening. It's like, at least you could have this to look back on and say, hey, that was a historic moment in the sport. And we didn't get to see it.
Yeah.
And afterwards they were just beat up. Like Rudy Fugel's crew chief was just like, that's pit stop cycle, which we'll dive more into, was like, you could tell it bothered him. Like that was when they lost the race. And they just never had a shot after that.
Well, backing up for a second there, the fact that they'd even made it that far into the race was set up by this Brad Keselowski caution, because it really took the track position away from two of the major contending cars at that point. Tyler Reddick and Ryan Blaney both seemed like they could have speed. They had just unlapped themselves when the caution came out. So then they had to decide, okay, do we now try to stay out on 5-lap older tires, or do we pit? Now we're 13th and 14th or whatever. And they said, you know what? Guess what? I mean, we've already used up our tires too much. We see how much they make a difference here. We saw at the end of the race, toward the end of the race. So we're going to have to come down and pit, but that means that we're going to come out 13th and 14th or whatever it was, right? And so they're not going to be second and third anymore or whatever. And so that was really a key moment there, because that allowed Byron as well. Not only did he get to pit and not lose the lead on green flag pit cycle, but he also had some of the fastest cars drop back, and then he had sort of more of a buffer for a while.
And another byproduct of that caution as well is it shot Denny Hamlin up, because it gave him the favorable track position, because he had a slow pit stop at the beginning of the race, or I think it was a slow pit stop, dropped him back. And then they were able to go back up, and that recouped the track position that they had lost and put them in a position to where they were at the end.
And same with Christopher Bell, by the way, because I asked Adam Stevens, I was like, wait, you guys were like 29th or something. How'd you get back up there? And he said, we were going a little bit long. Caution came out. We cycled up to 6th, and track position and the aero stuff meant so much today for whatever reason that they were able to stay up there. And then Christopher Bell contend for the win as well. But
Bell, Ty Gibbs, who got his first top 10 of the year, by the way, Alex Bowman, all three of those drivers were running like 25th on back and just having miserable days, it seemed like. And then they all shot up, and Bowman was running 10th, and he had his issues. But yeah, it really just changed everything and how this race played out.
Yeah. Well, so unfortunately for Byron, it does not come to fruition after he completely dominated the day. He ends up finishing second. He is still the points leader, though, by 49 over Denny Hamlin. We'll get to the Denny Hamlin part of it, but let's just keep trying to go in order here a little bit, because as it's running long there, so when they do pit for the last time, and this is where Byron loses control of the race, right? It was like, okay, when do we pit? It often happens. It feels like that the leader is not going to try to short pit. Somebody else tries to short pit because they can. They've got to take a chance. The leader's trying to run as long as they can. Also, if you're the leader, I think it's tough to be that aggressive and set, because what if a caution comes out and you just took yourself out of it,
exactly,
right? So you're trying to run, and at that point you have a little bit of a buffer. I mean, he had a 4-second buffer or something like that, I think, over Bell. So Bell, so he gets jumped in the pit cycle by not only Bell but also Reddick and Logano. Logano fades pretty quick because his tires were the oldest of those. And then Reddick builds this big, huge lead, like 6.5 seconds or whatever. And it looks like, okay, it's Bell and Byron have a lot of work to do suddenly to get back up there and try to pass Reddick. Ultimately, though, they don't get that chance because sort of under the radar, I think, or at least I didn't really notice at the time, but Blaney pits longer than anybody. He stays out. He runs long. So then all of a sudden he has super fresh tires, and they're like, okay,
go.
Blaney's on his way.
And he had the better car in long runs. Like if you look at the numbers throughout the day, his car was much, much better on a long green flag run. And we almost saw that at the end there materialize in the win, but then he got the caution, and he was never going to have a shot in that restart.
Well, right. So he shoots all the way up through the field, right? And you're watching the Delta go down, 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 down. You're like, whoa, he's going to get up to Reddick. I mean, as soon as he passed Byron on his fresher tires, it was like, well, race over for Byron, it felt like. As soon as he passed Bell, it was like race over unless they get a caution. So then it was like, okay, is he going to catch Reddick? And for a while, it was like, I don't know. It seems like too far back, but he made up so much ground.
Well, it didn't also help Reddick. Reddick didn't help himself either, because Reddick bounced off the wall a couple times. He overdrove a corner another time. Like Blaney was coming, and whether he would have been able to catch and pass him, it would have been close. But then Reddick started overdriving and making mistakes, and that compounded it. And at that point, I was like, okay, he's going to get there.
Yeah. So Blaney gets past Reddick. Blaney gets the lead, and he's only leading for 2 laps, right? Or really a lap. I mean, because he just gets past Reddick, and Reddick, I still don't. I didn't get to talk to him after the race. You didn't, I don't think.
No.
I don't know exactly what happened, but Reddick sort of like, I don't know. He gets up in the marbles. He's running high or something. He like stuffs himself in the wall somehow. He hits the wall, and this is sort of the key moment of the race, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Larson had been, according to Cliff Daniels, we didn't get to talk to Kyle Larson afterwards. We talked to Cliff Daniels, and Cliff Daniels relayed that I guess Larson was being told by Tyler Mon, his spotter, hey, he's starting to run high here. You might want to check up a little bit. And then as he gets in the wall, Larson had been trying to stay out of the way, right? Because Larson wrecks early in the race. And I want to come back to that in a minute if you remind me of Cliff Daniels told us why he came back out.
Mm-hmm.
But so he's back out there. He's trying to stay out of the way. They're just trying to learn some things. And he sees Reddick go on the fence, right? And he was already starting to run high. So Larson gets on the brakes really hard. It felt like, I mean, if you look at Bubba's in-car camera.
He stopped pretty quick. It was like a sudden stop.
It felt like it.
Yeah.
Obviously, Bubba didn't realize that Larson was going to check up that hard, slows down. I mean, he can't slow down in time. He slows down to some degree and plows into Larson, spins him out, which sets up this caution. Now, of course, everybody's, they come on Blaney's radio and they tell him, well, 23 spun out the 5 to, oh, isn't that convenient? The 45, Blaney's like, oh, great.
Teammate,
right? Yeah. Teammate thing. So, but again, we immediately went back and looked at the Max in-car cameras, and it seemed pretty obvious that Larson slowed up a lot. And then Auto Racing Analytics, our friend, later put the data, not the SMT data anymore, but what used to be called the SMT data. He posted that, and you can see clearly the brake line that Larson had there to try to check up. And Bubba just ran into the back of him. I caught up with Bubba briefly after the race, and he just said, I didn't think that was warranted that he was going to check out that much. And he apologized for ruining the 12 teams race. He also, in the middle of Blaney's interview, he came up to Blaney and whispered in his ear, but like did it in a way that like there was no chance that any of us could hear it. Like got real.
You didn't like jump in there and try to put your.
No, it was like sort of like the thing where you seal off you can't even read lips or anything. You know what I mean?
Just tuck your head in there.
It was like, okay, sure. Anyway, we asked Blaney what was said there, and he said, that's a secret. But anyway, it was pretty obvious though to me. There's plenty of I see all the conspiracy theorists out there, but I honestly don't give any credence to this at all. I think it was completely honest mistake, coincidence, but it did ruin Blaney's race though because pit stop happens again, and Denny Hamlin's pit crew, who Bozy Tetarevich on Actions Detrimental highlighted what they were doing with the Jackman last week. This swing around method that they have, pretty cool. Hamlin's pit crew's been on it, and they win him the race because he gets off pit road first.
2 positions again.
And Blaney also loses the front row.
2 positions
there, and that was the second time today that Blaney's pit crew really hurt him, or a bad pit stop, slow pit stop really hurt him. At one point, he went from 4th to 16th.
Mm-hmm.
So, pit crew was in these on a day like this, Jordan, where
track positions, everything. It's pit crews are everything. I mean, that's going to win you or lose you the race, and that literally what happened today.
Yep. And so Denny Hamlin ends up going back to back. Quite the surprise because Hamlin just hadn't really been in the mix. I think he said afterwards he's maybe the 8th best car. But Hamlin has also lost a ton of these races, had them taken away when it looked like he was going to win. In this case, he gets one back.
Yeah, two wins in a row, big. Chasing 60 career wins, looking for a driver who wants to win a championship. Playoff points and all that stuff that goes along with it is really important to add in there. And it just shows you, this is such a cliche, but this is a team that just finds a way to win. And they go to Martinsville and they dominate that race, and they come here and they did not have the best car. They use the circumstances to their advantage, and they leave here with the W. It's impressive. It really, really is impressive. And it speaks overall to Joe Gibbs Racing, because all off season it was, Joe Gibbs Racing hadn't won a race in a long time. It was the end of June. what's going on. They make all of these changes. Well, Bell's got 3 wins. Denny's got 2 wins. Chase Briscoe's been running fairly well. The 54 is a different story, but it's just like Joe Gibbs Racing, whatever lull they had, they have certainly pulled out of it.
Well, I mean, it could have been a very different narrative, obviously. I mean, we could have been talking about the Blaney win today.
But they got the win. And but the narrative though is Denny Hamlin and Joe Gibbs Racing, they have found a way. They, whether it's they dominated these races or they put themselves in position to capitalize on other people's mistakes, that they deserve credit for that. And conversely, for Blaney and Penske as a whole, really, if you think about it, with Cindric and Logano, and I'll even throw Barry in there too, and sometimes, though he's got that win, they've had a lot of speed. They've led a lot of laps. How many wins do they have? 1 with Barry. I mean, Blaney should have 2 wins this year. Logano maybe could have that's the narrative. That's the story of the season so far. Is Joe Gibbs Racing has found a way, and Penske has found a way to lose.
At this point, we're 8 races into the year. The top 4 finishers today were 4 of the top 5 in points right now. And, if you had to name the best team or the best car of the year so far, who are you looking at? Is it as simple as Byron? I mean, Bell won 3 in a row at one point.
But Blaney's in that mix.
That's what I'm saying. Is it possible winless Blaney is the best overall so far? I mean, Byron, is dominant.
Well, don't forget Larson too. Larson's second in points has a win.
No, he's 6 now.
Is he 6? They haven't updated my thing yet. I'm sorry.
Right here.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll get the new stuff. Okay. It's funny you bring this up because I've asked drivers over the last 10 days or so this question of who do you think has kind of emerged as the guys to beat, or is it too soon, that kind of thing. And I asked Denny Hamlin this yesterday in his press conference, and he's like, it's going to be the same guys. It wasn't Denny Hamlin or Chase Elliott. It was one of the 2 guys. I'm sorry. But it was the answer is it's going to be the same group of guys. It always is. It just kind of depends on who gets hot at the right time and who cycles up. But it's really.
I mean, that's not a surprise, but it's out of that group of guys. Who are we talking? If you had to pick one that you're like, okay, this person is really every week they seem to be. I don't know. Because, I mean, Bell's been so inconsistent in a way. He won those 3 in a row, but then there's been times when.
Yeah, they're not sharp. They didn't have a fast car today. They weren't fast at Homestead.
They got in contention, but
they needed some luck.
Right, right.
I mean, I would probably put the 5 in there just because it's Kyle Larson and Cliff Daniels, and they get the benefit of the doubt, and they do have speed most weeks. They regardless of where they're at. Blaney is probably 1B on that list just because they're fast every week. There isn't, outside of a road course, there isn't a track where you don't feel like he can go to and not run well in the laps. Darlington had been a track he never had a top 5 finish at in his career, which is a little hard to believe. But he comes here and he leaves with a top 5 finish, and he should have left with a win. Byron's consistency is really impressive, really, really impressive, and they just continue to knock it out. So probably those 3 guys, and you could put them in any order you want to, but those are the 3 guys to me that separated. Conversely, today was really nice to see at Tyler Reddick. I thought it was nice to see those guys actually have a race where they were in contention because they really haven't felt like that. For the most part, they've kind of been in the mix, but they really haven't been in the mix. And we talked about this the other last episode is Chase Elliott. He's just kind of there and he runs okay, and they struggle a little bit today. They had some issues on pit road. And he leaves with a top 10 finish, but it wasn't at all dominant. I'm really waiting for this team to kind of really step up and show themselves, and they certainly have not done that at all.
Yeah, I mean, but for me, I mean, William Byron has a 49-point lead. I mean, he has separated himself this early in the season. And, again, if they pit a little bit different today, we're talking about what an incredible performance William Byron has had. And it's a different conversation again. So I mean, I think you'd have to look at Byron as well. They're showing their typical early season.
That's the thing I was going to say is we have seen this from Byron before. And so if you're asking about who's going to carry this forward, they have all of the potential in the world to continue to do this, but we haven't seen them do this for the duration of the regular season before. Mm-hmm. And that's where the question is. Whereas we have seen this out of Kyle Larson before.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Larson thing before we move on too much, because I thought it was really interesting. Myself and Bob Pockris, Kelly Crandall went over to talk to Cliff Daniels afterwards. First of all, he's working on this wreck car, and he's looking at us. He's like, "Me? You want to talk to me? Why?" Right? But the question that we had was, I mean, first of all, Larson wrecks early in the race, and they go to the new DVP work area, right? And they spend 160 laps or something like that working on this car. And at the time when they came back out, the only car they could pass was JJ Yaley, but that's not a point because 36 and up get points, or once it only starts going up from there, right? So they weren't going to get any points by coming back out at that point. They were mathematically could not gain any points. So why were they doing it, right? Cliff Daniels said there was multiple reasons. Number one, anytime you're on the track, it allows you to try different things. They said they were working with air pressures and stuff. It gives the pit crew reps. He also said that just going through the process itself of the new DVP thing, I mean, that's not something that these pit crews and the road crews have done. The road crews haven't had this experience for the most part, with the next gen car, right? Like to be able to say, okay, we're going to replace these parts. And he was saying there's, these safety tethers. And he said it was actually probably a good process for NASCAR to go through also. Say, okay, this is what you need to get back out there. This is what, so it was interesting though, because, they are coming back here for Darlington for the first playoff race, so that, he's looking like there's always stuff you can try. Right. And so that's part of it. It was important for them to get back out. But, I got a text from Joey Meyer after the race, and he had a great observation. He said, is this the first race that the outcome was affected by the new DVP rule change? Because again, if the old DVP policy is in place, Larson's out of the race immediately, right? He's out of the race. They don't work on it and come back in. He got back on track. He's trying to stay out of the leader's way as they're passing him, right? And Bubba runs into him, causes the caution. So this race, the outcome was altered by the new DVP policy, essentially, by a team wanting to continue the race. Now, I don't fault them for that.
No, they did the right thing. And we've seen other teams do this too. Like they get the crashes throughout the summer. Like, no, we want to get reps. We want to know what it's like putting back their car together. It's important to have that skill set. And you're right, though, in that if this doesn't happen, Blaney's got to win. Hamlin's got one less win. It changes the entire complexion of everything. And this felt like a race, though, where there's all these little moments that happened, and it's like a butterfly effect. If like this doesn't happen or this doesn't happen, and it did, and it's a weird race where this felt very circumstantial today on a lot of different fronts.
Yeah, I think when you look at it as a whole, it wasn't the Darlington racing that we like to see at all. We've said so often, Darlington always delivers. Darlington's so amazing. Darlington's so amazing. This is going to be the lowest race, I'm pretty sure, the lowest race ever in the good race poll for Darlington, because Darlington has been the only track, Jordan, in the poll to never have gone below 70%.
Well, that'll change today.
Yes, I would say so. 15 Darlington races are in the Was It a Good Race poll, and it's the lowest ever is 71%. And for some reason, this was not a good race. I mean, it just was a stinker race for the most part. I mean, you had some little action at the end with the strategy stuff, but and a different winner because of a late caution. But what happened to the Darlington that we have known and loved, especially with the next gen car? What in the world happened today?
It's a good question. I asked that question to Denny Hamlin actually in this post-race press conference of why is Darlington like it was today? Why is it on intermediate racetrack, and they use intermediate race package here? We've seen this car do so well on mile and a half racetracks, and you would think that it would come here and this would be a killer race, right? It was not. This is a one groove racetrack, whereas like a Kansas or a Vegas or Charlotte, multiple grooves. Here it's one groove, and so you really don't have options to find that line and to make passes. The other thing is the tire fall off. The tires are falling off how they should. The tires are doing their job. The problem is they're all the teams are essentially hitting that moment at the exact same time. So there really isn't any comers and goers. It isn't like these three teams are hitting on it, 5 laps earlier, or these teams are over here are not. And then these guys are passing each other, that kind of thing. it's a continuation of that. And then these cars are equal. And so it's all of these things, and it combines to make a race that we saw today, where it's track position, track position, track position.
It just really just an outlier of a Darlington race. The racing experts on Twitter posted that this race today, with only 4 lead changes, is tied with the 1950 Southern 500 for the fewest lead changes ever in a NASCAR Cup Series race at Darlington.
That is, and for those who didn't know, that is the inaugural race at Darlington.
Also, Seth Agert says, in terms of like this few lead changes in the next gen car, only that 2023 Bristol dirt race, which of course I love, Jordan.
Oh, you're a big fan. Love that dirt.
The 2023 Bristol dirt race is the only other race in the next gen to have only 4 lead changes, which is obviously the fewest. So just a total anomaly in a lot of ways, but it just felt like track position was everything.
They couldn't pass. Like I saw it with Byron, even when he was going up on lap cars today, it was like he was struggling to get by them. And I kept watching. I couldn't believe there wasn't a lot of lap traffic. There was 30 some cars on the lead lap for a good part of this race. And it wasn't until like very end of the stage and a long green flag run where you started to see a little bit, you couldn't get through traffic. We saw it with Byron too. When he got back in traffic, like his car completely changes. And that's the other thing too with this is the car aerodynamics are so different from when you're in front to when you're in traffic. And when you're by yourself and in clean air, you can just run and do your thing and it's fine. But you get back in traffic, it's a different ballgame.
Yeah, I mean, somebody had tweeted, I wish I had saved the tweet. Somebody tweeted, well, does Byron know, like once he came out 4th or 3rd or whatever, it was like they said, does Byron know how his car is going to be in traffic? Like, could this affect it? And I'm like, I don't think he hasn't been there all day, so how would he know, you know? But I think it was a fair guess at that point that it was going to be different, and he was going to have, I mean, he only had 3 lap fresher tires than Reddick. He had 1 lap fresher tire than Bell. I think he had 3 or 4 laps fresher than Reddick, and Reddick was off to like a 6.5 second lead fairly quickly. And it was like, oh, Byron is going to need some help here. It was kind of stunning how quickly the race got away from them. All it was a pit cycle, and that was it. Their entire dominant day was gone.
Yeah, it just flipped. And it's so easy to think like when you're in the lead, like just keep control of the race, just don't lose the lead. You know, it's like don't try to do it long. And they did go long, and that earlier part in stage 2, it's like, why are you guys running so long here? Like, and they ended up getting a caution, so it ended up actually working out for them. But they lost control, and Rudy said to me they thought they would have been a second clear of Bell. The way their numbers worked out, they thought the gap they had was going to go down to a second, but they still would have been ahead of Bell. And that would have been okay. But they had a slower pit stop. I don't know if it was a slower pit stop, but they were slower overall, whether it was a slow pit stop or Byron got in and off, whatever. But their whole time was slower than Bell. So they actually ended up coming out behind him. And then we saw how difficult it was. Like it took him for a long, long time to get around Christopher Bell, and they ended up having traffic and everything else, and he just never was able to do that and set sail and then pursue Reddick. If he would have been able to get by Bell early, maybe he runs down Christopher or Tyler Reddick, but it's hard to say.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting now. See if Denny Hamlin can go for 3 in a row. Be the second Joe Gibbs Racing driver to go 3 in a row within the first 9 races because he's going to Bristol.
Where he's the defending race winner, by the way. Yeah,
right. And I guess the whole thing about, wow, is this Denny Hamlin's last win last week? We never know. We only had to wait 1 week to find out. He's now got 56. He moves into 11th on the all-time wins list by himself, past Rusty Wallace. And we obviously know he's shooting for 60, although he said kind of actually 61, because that would get him past Kevin Harvick into the top 10 by himself. So we'll see if he can do it. But, I'm still sort of like on this, you never know kind of thing. I just don't, these races are so hard to win. I mean, a few weeks ago, everybody's like, Bell is just going to, oh my gosh.
That's how it is with this car, though. Like,
yeah.
you go in cycles where it seems like a team can't lose and then a team can't win. And Chris or Bell's a perfect example of that. They look so good. And we were sitting there like, I mean, kind of said tongue in cheek. We're like, man, is he ever going to lose a race? Because look at all these racetracks that are coming up, right? Like, I'm not kidding. And then now it's like they needed a lot of things to go their way today just to leave here with a top 10 finish. It's just, that's how this is. This is such a cyclical sport, and it's really about when you have opportunities to get wins, like you have to take advantage of it because you just don't know when the opportunity is going to come around again, because it could be gone the next week.
There's a lot of other stuff to talk about, but let's talk about the Good Race poll now because we're already on this topic. So as you tried to cheat last week, of course, and
what?
I just saw what you just did.
I wanted to.
So we're sharing a computer right now for those who are watching on the live stream. We're sharing my laptop, and we weren't watching ourselves on the live stream, which has the YouTube comments. I had the scoring monitor up because we were just looking at the scoring monitor, which has all the points, all that stuff. As we start talking about the Good Race poll, Jordan switches to the view where he can see the YouTube comments because you're trying to get inspiration.
That's exactly what happened. Man, I want to see how good I look.
You want to see yourself, not the YouTube comments of the
people.
Oh,
they over there? I didn't even notice that. Huh? No, I'm a good-looking man. I want to see how good I look. Can't help it.
Okay.
You look this good. You want to, you know?
Well, last week you froze up from Martinsville, and so you disappeared. But we ended up having very, very, very similar guesses. Mine, Jordan, yours was 45. Mine was 46.7, and we thought we were going to be wildly different. The poll ended up being just about 50-50. So we are now tied again, thanks to Big Joe Wall, 4-4, and it's a very close tiebreaker right now. But this one again is going to be somewhere where I think we're going to be way off. I don't think that we're going to be that close. So I'll let you write yours down. I'm going to type mine into the calculator. I'm not cheating. I'm not cheating.
Yeah. I trust you.
Okay, I have mine. I actually think I might be too high.
I'm probably too high, actually, too. Real quick, what's the lowest number in the poll?
The lowest ever?
Yeah.
So you think you could rival?
Just wanna. Okay.
The lowest number ever in the poll was the 2022 Texas All-Star Race with the Blaney window net, which got 11%. The second lowest is 2022 Texas race, 13.4%.
I'm changing my number.
Oh, you are?
Yep. Hang on.
Oh, shoot. Well, now I figure this is where we're holding up the podcast way too much here. But yeah, I just don't think it's going to be very high.
All right, I'm ready.
I really don't think it's going to be very high. Oh shoot, are you looking?
I already got mine down. It's okay.
All right. What do we got here?
18%.
Oh my God, are you freaking kidding me? I have 18.2% and Jordan has 18%.
I had 25.
I had 21.3.
Oh, wow. 18.
So we both went 18.2 for me. 18% for Jordan. We don't think this is a very good race.
I think it's going to go lower. I mean,
I think it could be.
I really
think you could win with 18.
There's two things working against this race. Three things. One driver flat dominated the entire race. No passing, very little passing, very little action. People are frustrated with that. And then you have an unpopular winner. I mean, say what you will about Denny Hamlin, but
people are going to be like, all that for a Denny Hamlin win?
Exactly.
100%. And man, the boost he got. But here's the thing: if it goes low, if it goes 18, there have been 345 races in this poll, and only 3 races have been under 18%. So we could be talking like a historic no on this. So I don't know.
We'll see. It'll be interesting. I'm really curious to know. I think this is gonna be bad. I think this is potential all-timer.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll find out tomorrow. Jordan, this was Throwback weekend.
Yes.
And it was a big talking point. I'm working on an article for The Athletic talking about where this all stands. But, there was 19 cars that did not have Throwback paint schemes. And the drivers were, a lot of them saying, hey, listen, This just has sort of run its course. Chase Elliott was outspoken about it. Even Byron, Hocevar, all these people. And then we asked, Denny Hamlin about it. And, as a team owner perspective, 2311's cars weren't doing it. We asked Brad Keselowski about it because RFK's cars weren't doing the throwbacks. And, they're all just like, listen, the sponsors, our partners pay to be on these cars, and our partners don't really want to, they're trying to advertise, right? Like they don't want to have their logos change or different colors, than their company branding. And I think also that some people have pointed out, there's very few sponsors now that are on for that much of the season.
That's a huge part of this. So that it's everything you said is correct. That is such a huge thing. Is now sponsorship is such a piecemeal thing. And actually, I'm working on a story on this for The Athletic. You're going to see sometime in the next few weeks. The game has changed. So few sponsors now are 20 plus races, and a lot of them are 5, 6, 7 races. And so you have such few inventory. If you're one of those sponsors, all of a sudden you're going to be like, oh no, we're gonna completely change our logos, our imaging, our colors, and all of this stuff for what? Like what are we really getting out of this? Because all it's really going to do is maybe promote a past sponsor, whatever that is. What are we getting out of this? We need to promote our brand, and that's a huge part of it. Where some of the teams that have really done a good job with this, like let's use Kyle Larson for an example. Kyle Larson has done a really good job on the throwback concept. Well, what does Kyle Larson have on his car? He is one of the few teams that has the same sponsor 30 plus races. I think they're on their 34 or 36 races. I think, it's a really big number, but they have the opportunity to do that because Hendrick Cars is going to be on there other times. And so they can kind of throw away a race, if you will. You don't see that with a lot of these other companies. And it makes total sense. If I'm spending all of this money, if I'm spending mid six figures to sponsor a race team, I want to make sure I'm getting a return on my investment. And how am I going to make sure I do that? I completely understand it. And then add in the fact that, frankly, a lot of the great paint schemes have been done. Like, how many times do we need to see the same? It feels like there's the same version of the 5, 6 paint schemes. They're great. They're wonderful. It just has run its course, though. It is so much. It needs to go away for a while to make us love it again.
So I disagree. I actually disagree. I came into the weekend thinking that, but I was sort of with Brad Keselowski, who later he said when he went into the fan zone and it kind of hit him. I don't know if everybody saw his comment on X, but he realized the importance of, celebrating the sport. He was seeing people walk around with old T-shirts and stuff like that. I do hear your point, certainly about the paint schemes themselves, right? Certainly, if you're a sponsor who signs up to sponsor a car for 4 races, and that's all the money you have, you're not going to give away one of your races to make you think about somebody else's company. I totally get that. I disagree though, in terms of what you were saying with, throwbacks have been done before. Like we've already thrown back to every paint scheme. Who cares? It's like a Halloween party. And if somebody shows up at a ghost, you're not going to be like, we had a ghost at this party last year.
No, I would laugh at him going, way to go on your lack of creativity. That's the best you could do.
At least you had a costume.
Oh, you throw a bed sheet over yourself and cut some holes in it? That's not a costume. Like, put some thought into it.
Okay. Well, here's the conclusion I feel like I ended up coming to this weekend. As great as the throwback concept is, which is throwing back to a different period of history or different paint scheme or whatever, I think Raja Karuth nailed it on Twitter when he said, you know what it should be? It should be like the retro weekend, because nostalgia is so important in NASCAR, and it means so much to NASCAR fans. Every single fan I talked to here this weekend loves that it is, they came here for this reason. They love it. Look, here's our poll right here. As we're doing a live poll on a YouTube chat, 65% of the fans in here, 2/3 say that it has not run its course. So the fans are all about it, and the fans love history. They love nostalgia. And there's so many other things about this weekend. Okay, I get it. You're not going to do the paint schemes necessarily. The Xfinity paint schemes were good because they didn't have the sponsors to answer to. They had more creativity. But there's so many other things. I mean, the tweet up today, right? We had some of the NASCAR alumni that came out, because they bring out all these. I got to interview Lake Speed today. I got to catch up with Kevin LePage I mean, people I haven't talked to for a long time. You're hearing their perspective on the sport now. So the tweet up today, we had Ron Hornaday, Mike Skinner, Jeff Bodine, and Mike Wallace. And they're all taking turns telling old Earnhardt stories. Jeff Bodine is talking about the scene that inspired the Days of Thunder, the moment for him that inspired the Days of Thunder scene, right? They're all going back and forth with the fans. They were Bob at one point, because usually we have if we have a guest for a while, we'll talk. And then Bob, I'm usually the one letting it run too long. And Bob says, I think, you think we should take the group picture now. So, we can kind of get going, right? Or let the guests get going. And he had said that to me. And he kept looking over at me and laughing. And I kept kind of shrugging my shoulders because these guys were having so much fun just telling stories to the fans, and the fans were eating it up. It was like another 10, 15 minutes before I finally was like, all right, let's try to take a group photo here so you can talk to these guys individually at the tweet up. It was so cool. And you see all the old gear. People would, bring out their old crew shirts and all this stuff. And there was old vintage cars taking laps around the track. There's a throwback parade here that goes from downtown. What?
I hate parades.
Well, you weren't in the parade, so it doesn't bother. It doesn't affect you. The fans like it. It's not about you. Anyway, there's a lot of great elements to this weekend that don't necessarily involve the paint schemes. So I think there's a sweet spot to take some of the focus off the paint schemes themselves. Because I even think if we went back to the drivers now and we were specifically talking about the weekend, because I think everybody's conflating the paint schemes and the weekend as a whole. The paint schemes, I could see people saying, we've been done. It's been done. We've thrown back to what we can do. How many more tributes can we do? There's either obscure ones or, it's ones that have been done a zillion times. This is, right? I get where they're coming from at that. But the weekend as a whole, it's really cool to celebrate NASCAR history. NASCAR history is badass. Let's keep doing that. Let's keep figuring out a way to do that. It doesn't need to involve the paint schemes, in my opinion. If you want to do them, great.
No, I love that idea. I love that idea of making it a celebration of NASCAR history without the paint schemes, because I love everything about that. And I love the fact that NASCAR does a really good job of bringing out the legends and incorporating it. It's it's an old-timers game of baseball, right? It's always cool to see the guys you watch as a kid out there. I think you need that. I think they do a really good job of that. And this is a great place for it. This is Darlington. It's it doesn't get any better than this. This is really, really cool. And I love that. The paint scheme thing, I agree with you. I think you can separate that. And if a team wants to take part of it, great. And there's no pressure or anything like that. But keep the celebration. Keep this as the Hall of Fame, legend history of the sport weekend. And I love it. I really do. I think it's a good thing about that. And it's one of the nice things that this weekend has is this has become that. And it's a signature thing that you look at oh, yeah, Darlington, that's going to be throwback weekend. And let's figure out the revival, or let's figure out a different name for it. I love it. I think it's a great idea. And we can move away from the paint schemes too, where it becomes less about that, which they're going to be. It just becomes a little bit redundant. And we're also getting to a point of what is there to do? We've seen them all. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah. And I mean, look, I went and sat up in the stands for the Xfinity race on Saturday, and I was almost in the top row, right? And you could see the cars going around the track, and you're like, oh yeah, there's that one. Even in Cup, it was pretty hard to recognize what a lot of them were trying to be. And so I think if you use Raja's concept of the retro weekend, that actually allows the sponsors who did pay and don't want to give up, don't want to emulate somebody else's paint scheme. You could just say, okay, here, how about you have old lettering?
Yeah, exactly. We're going back to our roots. This was our logo in the 1940s.
This was our company.
Yeah, this is how we started. I love that. I think it's a great idea, and it lets you have more flexibility. And then trying to wedge a paint scheme in, no offense, Cole Custer had a Jimmy Spence or Target throwback. It's just because they're the 41 team, it's there's no connections. There's zero ties other than some random number.
Yeah, I mean, Austin Cindric nailed it with his Dale Senior one, and obviously Larson. I mean, that was great. But Chase Elliott is it's not going to be long till I'm throwing back to myself here. We've gone through all the schemes, and I agree. I'm also agreeing with the people who are yeah, if you do some random one and you have to show the side by side. A host of ours said this. If you have to show the side by side pictures for people to go oh yeah, okay, I could see that. You know what I mean?
There was a few. You're like, that is a stretch.
Right.
What are we doing here?
Yeah. So I think that's fine. And but let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater in this case.
No. So I love that. I love that idea, and I would lean into it even more than they do.
Yeah. There's actually more stuff you could probably.
There's a heck of a lot of stuff. Like they had the yesterday after the Xfinity Series race, they brought some old cars on the racetrack and had like black, and I'm like, there's nobody in the grandstands for this.
I know
it was like very weird. I'm like, why?
I was like, wow, run that before the Cup race.
Yeah, couldn't you like
maybe they're worried about oil leaks?
Well, couldn't you do it before the Xfinity or have it on the apron, or if you're like, it's just weird. Like you really could lean into this and really do some really cool things. I love it. I really do love it. They should let us be in charge of this.
Well, like the Indy 500, for example, like every year on race day morning, they have like these old vintage IndyCar past Indy 500 entries running. And you're like, oh, damn, like it's so cool.
Yeah, it adds to it.
Like to see them coming down the yard of bricks, the front stretch again, past the yard of bricks. And anyway, you can do that here. Darlington's a great place for it. So that's my take on that. Of course, I've probably just spoiled my article, but please read my articles. Anyway, there's some other things to talk about this week, Jordan. So tell us what's next in your notes.
I think both of things are on our list here. Looking at your list, seeing my list. Rick Ware Racing is in court with Legacy Motor Club.
Yeah, so I don't think this was known that Rick Ware Racing had decided to sell one of its charters to Legacy Motor Club, but it certainly becomes known when it appears in public court documents, albeit heavily redacted. Legacy Motor Club is accusing Rick Ware Racing of signing a deal to sell one of its charters and then backing out or trying to back out of that without closing the deal. Jordan, what can you tell us about this situation and what is going on here? What is it at play? What is happening?
So Rick Ware Racing agreed to sell a charter to Legacy Motor Club. That is indisputable. What Rick Ware Racing is contending is that we wanted to sell that charter effective with the 2027 season.
Not next year.
Not next year, because I think there's a couple things we need to point out. Rick Ware Racing has two charters. One of those charters is leased to RFK Racing.
That Priest is using right now.
Yes. And so that is an agreement that's a multi-year agreement from my understanding. Okay. And so
what you're saying is there's a multi-year agreement that Rick Ware Racing has with RFK Racing to lease a charter. However, you're not allowed to lease a charter for more than one season.
Yeah. Well, that's getting in the weeds. Yes. They were going to flip.
But that's why they have to, if they have a multi-year deal with RFK to lease a charter,
yes,
then they have to take the current Ryan Priest charter back and give Cody Ware's charter to RFK next year.
Correct.
But what you're saying is if Rick Ware Racing agreed to sell Ryan Priest's charter, the one Ryan Priest is using right now, to Legacy Motor Club, and they have an agreement to give the current Cody Ware charter to RFK, that means Rick Ware Racing has no charters for next year.
Correct.
So, okay,
then that's it. That's the point. Is then they would be down to 0 charters. Effectively, if Rick Ware Racing wants to continue in NASCAR, and they say they do.
So you're saying that was never their intent to sign a deal that said they would give their charter?
According to them, that's them. And so they did not want to run as an open team in 2026. Their deal, they believe, was for 2027, gives them another year with a charter, and then they can figure it out in 27. They did not want to do that. They basically, for lack of a better term, tried to get out of the deal. Like, this was not what we agreed to. We signed this, but this was not the terms we agreed to. I have to be very careful how I say this. I wish I had the story in front of me. I could read it. But basically, people that are familiar with the situation on the Rick Ware side have said the terms were changed on us, and we weren't aware of the terms. They weren't aware that the year had been changed from 27 to 26, and we didn't realize it until after the fact.
So your sources are telling you that Rick Ware intended to sign a contract that said that we will give this charter to you in 2027, and they feel that the terms were changed to 2026, and they signed it.
Yes.
Anyway,
they signed it anyway. And so now Legacy's comeback is, you signed this contract. You knew it was 2026. It's all over the document. Whether you noticed it or not, that we agreed to 2026. They're saying, and the contract is very clear: 2026 here, 2026 here. You signed it multiple places. With 2026, there is no. What are we doing here? Like, we had a contract, you signed it, we had a deal in place. We're trying to move forward, and that's why Legacy is suing Rick Roll Racing.
Very interesting. Well, I'd be very curious to see
yeah, I don't.
How that one gets resolved. Another one that seems to be resolved already, a bizarre one. Lamar Jackson objects to Dale Jr.'s attempt to trademark the number 8. Now, this was a bit confusing because they had put 2 requests to trademark stylized number 8s into the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, right? You have the Budweiser style DEI former number 8 that's super famous and associated with Dale Jr., right? And obviously Teresa let that expire last year, so Dale Jr. went and applied for that. Then there was the JRM 8 that had been used, but not like in an iconic way, right? Lamar Jackson did not try to protest the DEI Budweiser 8. Mm-hmm. He tried to protest the other 8. But as it comes out, everybody, you read it in the story and all this stuff, and everybody's saying, well, oh my gosh, he's trying to trademark, does he think he's bigger than Dale Jr.? People put the side by side of like, this is Lamar Jackson as a kid and this is Dale Jr. It wasn't even that 8. You know what I mean? Like, so to me, it seems like, sort of, I don't even know if Lamar Jackson, if it's probably his brand.
I was going to say, like, it's usually the marketing agents, lawyers, always blame the lawyers.
I mean, he's already tried to, he's still involved in legal action with Troy Aikman, who's also trying to do 8, the word 8, I think. But Dale Jr. then comes out in a statement and says, well, I mean, we got the Budweiser 8, and this was essentially going to be a backup kind of for better terms, for lack of better terms, in case the other one was needed. And we're going to be moving away from the JRM 8 because we got the one we wanted now. So it sounds like this will all be going away soon, but quite a bizarre thing when you have Lamar Jackson, 2-time NFL MVP, going up against Dale Jr. and prompted a lot of conversation and honestly a lot of great memes as well.
Should Richard Childress Racing be in trouble now? Should they be concerned?
Oh, you're saying, does it look like, no, okay. I mean, hey,
where does this stop if you're Lamar Jackson?
Lamar will come after,
Alex Ovechkin, is he have to be worried now?
Babe Ruth from the grave.
Babe Ruth was 3.
Oh, you're right. Shoot.
Yogi Berra was 8.
Yogi Berra. Sorry, my
bad. Okay, it's all good.
Darn.
Yankees have more retired numbers than any professional sports team.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was a weird one.
It's been lawyers are getting rich in NASCAR right now.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
Yeah, it is a good time to be a lawyer. And
billable hours are a wonderful thing.
Beautiful. Chef's kiss.
Yeah. It's good for business. We take it.
What else you got?
I mean, that was really it on the non-racing stuff. Yeah. I mean, that's about it. I mean, it's been a busy week and there's more to come.
Oh yeah. Did you have a productive, were you working the garage this week?
Very productive.
Oh,
very productive. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Stay tuned on The Athletic in the next few weeks.
Well, I have to tell you a story because,
oh boy.
So I went to dinner by myself last night since you didn't invite me.
You were invited. Stop saying that.
Okay. But so I go to this lovely little, I was staying in Cheraw, South Carolina. Shout out Cheraw. And I was staying in this new Spring Hill Suites. It's about 40 minutes from the track. I was just like, I haven't been in Darlington. This is my first time in Darlington for 8 years because you keep hogging all of them. So I'm eating dinner by myself, and I order like a salad and salmon. Okay.
Very healthy of you. Well,
I was just trying to keep it healthy on a race weekend. So I eat the salad first, and there was like really not very many people in this restaurant. So, sort of, I don't know. There was people in it, but not a lot. So I'm sitting at the bar eating my food, and I finish my salad, and the lovely lady who was running the place comes over and she's like, "Oh, are you done with your salad?" And I was like, yeah. And she's like, okay, yeah, because yeah, he was waiting to see when you were done to start making your salmon. And I look in, like, and there's like a window into the kitchen. And the chef's just looking at me, like
peering at you.
He's been like watching me eat to see when he can start making the salmon. He just kind of like gives me a head nod. And I'm like, oh man, like I've just been sitting by myself, and this chef's just been staring at me the entire time, watching me eat my salad, to be like, all right, can I turn on the stove now? Or
You're like a zoo animal.
It was like, so yeah.
Well, at least you had someone to talk to, maybe.
Yeah, no, I mean, the lady was talking about how, she said, why? She's like, what are you doing in town here? And I was like, oh, I'm here for the race. And she's like, oh, we used to get a lot of people from staying here that would go to the Rockingham race. And I was like, really? I mean, it just kind of hits home how this area, you know. Anyway, so then I get back to my hotel, and I was trying to unload my car, right? And I had this cup of coffee from earlier yesterday morning, and it just was old and stale. And I was just
throw it away before that.
Well, we had an early wake up call here, and I just, I drank it almost, half the cup all the way down here, and I left it in my car, and I was just going to throw it away when I got back to the hotel. So I have, we have these. I got my monitors now. I got my podcast equipment. So I have a briefcase. I have my backpack, and I had a bag of snacks that I got at the grocery store to bring down, because I was like, the food at Darlington is often like, not super healthy. I'm trying to eat better, all that stuff, right?
Yeah, I need to do that.
So I had 3 bags plus this cup of coffee. And as I reach up to close the trunk, press the thing, I dump half the coffee out all over myself, brand new shirt, right? So I'm like, oh my gosh, like just total everywhere. I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of funny. I take a picture of it, I post on Instagram. As I'm putting, and I'm still have my hands full, as I'm putting my phone back in my pocket. I saw the shirt,
by the way. I'd throw that thing away.
I washed it in my sink. I hope it will come out okay. Oh. So as I put the phone back in my pocket, I accidentally hit the key. And I had just gotten this, it was this a Ford Bronco rental this weekend, only 1,000 miles on it. I accidentally hit the key, and it sets the car alarm off. So I'm in the hotel parking lot, and it's going, bah, bah, and I'm like, okay, well, so I get the keys back out, and I'm trying to hit unlock. It's not going off. I'm like, lock. There's people looking at me now. I mean, I'm
as they should.
Shira, I'm waking up the whole city of Shira. This thing is loud.
This man with coffee all over him.
And I'm like, yeah. So I have a stained shirt. So then as I'm trying to figure out how to turn the car alarm back off, I spilled the coffee again. And oh, this time it was way worse. And I spilled the rest of the coffee, like the lid comes off.
What is wrong with you?
And I spill it all over my groceries. And
are people watching this, by the way?
Yes.
Like, so they see,
because the car alarm's going off.
Yeah, so they see you spill your. Oh man. So they got to think you're the biggest idiot around.
I finally realized you have to press the car alarm button again to turn it off, not unlock.
No.
And I have coffee all over. So I get back to my hotel room, and the coffee is pooled at the bottom of the grocery bag, this paper bag. It's in every nook and crevice of all these snack bars that I have. And so I had to wash the snack bars. I had to wash my shirt. There's coffee drip. My whole hotel room, whoever the maid comes in, smells like stale coffee. Like my clothes, everything was just this old stale coffee. And I had to throw it was just the biggest, I was just like, oh, it was just the biggest fail just from start to finish.
How do you manage your children this way? Like, I wouldn't trust you with them.
So the moral of the story is I just should have waited an hour, gone to dinner. Starting with the salmon and all that stuff.
We had a great time last night. A lot of fun. Don't remember much of it, but we had a lot of fun.
I went straight to bed after that because I was just like, I'm done. So when you were out having fun, Anyway, so that was my weekend in South Carolina.
2 coffee spills, a car alarm, and the label of the biggest idiot in town.
Yeah, it was something for sure.
You're special.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. Well, the Xfinity race was a lot cleaner than my night was. Thankfully, they had a meeting that we stood outside of, and Sammy Smith said all the right things. And
seems like it sounds like, I mean, that's just the right thing. I mean, like, it seems like you talk to people so close to him throughout the week, and like he's done a good job of kind of like accepting, like, hey, I did this wrong. I need to be better in the situations. And that to me is the really big thing, is the people that are close to him and they see this on a day-to-day basis and they're like, listen, he really gets it. That resonates with me than just someone saying, hey, yeah, I want to be better. It's like you actually want to see them do that. So it seems encouraging. And I think looking back on the week, listen, the race was bad. It was bad. I mean, there's no way around it. But it felt like maybe it was like over the top in terms of the criticism and stuff. Like, it was a bad race, but it wasn't like they do this all of the time. Like, that's
the part I think was over the top.
Yeah, it's like we had this thing of like, oh my God, the Xfinity series has got this identity crisis, and oh my God, it's like, whoa, they had a bad week. They had a really, really bad week. We will all agree they had a really, really bad week. They all lost their minds. But to sit there and like, oh my God, these guys, what are they doing? And there's this and that, and then like, let's pump the brakes a little bit and just be like. And so I almost feel like, I don't know if we needed all the hand wringing we had last week, and it felt like the Xfinity series was like, I felt like this Xfinity series was an identity crisis, and we need, we have to have this, and we're the veterans, and it's like, let's calm down. Like, let's calm down. It was a bad week. I think the meeting was good. It's good to have those meetings. And honestly, though, they need to have that meeting on the Friday of Martinsville come the playoffs. And that's the meeting. And you need to bring everybody in the room and like, listen, tomorrow's race, there is none of this. And if there is this, we're going to make it real hard on you guys. And that's, to me, is the important thing, because you're not going to see the effects of that meeting these next few weeks, because we're really not going to meet. You're going to Bristol and stuff, but it's like Bristol doesn't really turn into that, so we're really not going to know if this took, because you're not going to have the opportunity until really Martinsville, because it's like, for whatever reason, these guys just freaking lose their minds at Martinsville,
Yeah, no, this is exactly what Austin Hill said, all these points in his press conference. And I do agree with that I don't think we overreacted to the Martinsville race, but that the Xfinity series has a problem in general, I think is overblown, because it has been a great series for the most part, right? Like, everybody loves the Xfinity series. And but as Austin Hill said, we all just look like we can't drive at Martinsville. And Martinsville in particular is the place where we all lose our minds. And so, to your point, I mean, even Austin Hill said, I don't think one meeting, I think we probably need to have another reminder before the Martinsville race that sets the Final Four field at Phoenix. But I do think there's some irony, of course, that Austin Hill was one of the speakers in the meeting. Justin Allgaier and Austin Hill who plowed through people himself. And he owned that. But, he said, I did do some stuff, but and I have an aggressive style. But I think that if there's a willingness, at least because he said he and Allgaier talked afterwards, that after the meeting, and they're like, let's try to be the veterans here and take more of a role. So I think if they can harness that, and people will, they have voices. So, we'll see if things change, but we're not really going to know, because I don't really think you don't see it that much, that egregiously through the whole field, like we did. And it wasn't the whole field, but a lot of it.
It was almost the whole field.
Yeah. All right. Well, anything else, Jordan? You're off to Bristol next.
Bristol, yeah, be good.
And then Rockingham, which I will be off the face of the earth by then.
I got nothing to do on Easter weekend. I got no family, no friends. So why not go to the racetrack?
Because you could be on the beach, and we're going to be 28 straight podcasts in a row after that.
I'll be fine.
Okay. Well, everybody, appreciate you as always. Make sure to check out our work on The Athletic, and as well, I have to say I saw the first Jordan Bianchi lemonade stand shirt in the wild today. Somebody at the Tweet Up was wearing the Jordan Bianchi lemonade stand.
Shannon, thank you, appreciate it.
So go to shop.dirtymomedia.com if you want to get some merch. You don't have to buy the lemonade shirt, but there's plenty
You
of great
should.
merch out there. Don't buy the lemonade shirt. Buy something.
No, be like Shanna.
Okay. It did look cool. It's cool. Your cartoon self looks a lot better than your real life version. So.
That's definitely not true.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks as always for listening, and we will talk to you next time on The Teardown. See you, everybody.